We renewed our vows last weekend. He cried during the ceremony. 4 days later, I caught him on the phone saying, if it weren't for her family's money, I'd be gone already. I haven't told him what I heard. Instead, I'm slowly dismantling the fantasy he built, while he's still pretending everything's perfect. Let me back up. 5 years ago, I really thought I'd beaten the odds. Most guys I met through my family's circles were carbon copies of each other, boat shoes, business majors, and egos the size of Wall Street. Mike was different, or at least, he seemed that way. We met at a charity event my dad was hosting. He wasn't a guest. He was helping coordinate the AV tech, running around in a headset and rolled up sleeves, cursing quietly when the slideshow glitched mid-speech. I laughed. He smiled. We got drinks after the gala and stayed up until 3 a.m., talking about everything from our worst dates to our weirdest childhood dreams. He didn't flinch when I told him about my family's money. He said it didn't intimidate him. And for a while, I believed he saw me not my last name, not my inheritance, me. Our relationship felt like a breath of fresh air in a world of suffocating expectations. Mike made me feel normal. Every weekend wasn't some flashy influencer getaway. It was movies on the couch, burgers in bed, grocery shopping, while debating cereal brands like it was a Supreme Court case. After a year, he proposed with a ring I later found out he saved for 6 months to buy. I said yes before he even finished the question. My dad adored him. Said he was hardworking, grounded, exactly the kind of man who doesn't just take, he builds. When Dad offered to bring him into the family business eventually, Mike actually said he wanted to earn it. And I remember being so proud of that moment, like I'd found a unicorn in a sea of horses pretending to be better. 5 years later, we were renewing our vows under fairy lights in our backyard. He wrote his vows by hand. I know, because he left the crumpled draft on our nightstand, every word was heartfelt, scribbled with so much care. He even quoted one of our inside jokes. Everyone said we were couple goals. I had no idea he was performing. So when I walked into our house that Thursday afternoon, nachos in one hand, his favorite IPA in the other, I didn't expect to hear him upstairs, alone in his gaming room, saying, "Marriage is a complete nightmare, bro. If it wasn't for her family's money, I'd be gone already. The only good thing is I don't have to worry about rent." I froze. My stomach dropped. The bag of takeout hit the floor, and I just stood there, listening, waiting for the punchline. A kidding, man. But it never came. The vow thing last weekend? Pure torture, man. Had to act all romantic while her dad looked like he was watching a Disney movie. I've gotten good at the performance, though. Oscar-worthy. He laughed, and something in me shattered. I backed out the door like a ghost, barely breathing. Got in my car. Drove aimlessly for over an hour before I realized I was still gripping the steering wheel like it owed me answers. Eventually, I parked in a CVS lot and sobbed until my vision blurred. Some older woman tapped on my window and asked if I was okay. I told her my dog died. I didn't even have a dog. I spent the night at a hotel by the airport, told my friends the trip got extended, texted Mike that I was having so much fun and couldn't wait to see him Sunday. Because I wasn't ready to confront. Not yet. I needed a plan. And the first step? Figuring out how deep the lie went. The first lie was easy to catch. Mike told me he was working late the night I got back from the trip. I told him I was still in Nashville. He said he had a big Zoom call with the West Coast team. Funny because the Wi-Fi history on our home network showed no logins during that window. I only knew that because I logged into our router that morning, a thing I'd never done in our entire marriage. But suddenly, I was noticing everything. And the cracks? They were everywhere. Our finances had always been Mike's thing. He liked spreadsheets, loved budgeting, said he was better at math stuff, and I quote, "wouldn't want to worry my pretty head with all that boring nonsense." At the time, I laughed. Now it made my skin crawl. So that Monday, I called my bank. Not the one we used jointly. My bank. The one under my maiden name with the account I opened back in college mostly empty, untouched for years. I changed the passwords, added security alerts. Then I started slowly funneling money over from our joint account. Just $300 at first, then $200. A few Venmo lunch charges that were really just code for, "I'm rebuilding my freedom." By Tuesday, I had a separate folder on my laptop labeled just in case. Inside, screenshots, password lists, backup files of anything that looked remotely shady. I even reread our prenup. My dad had insisted we sign one, not because he didn't trust Mike, but because he didn't want love to become leverage. Thank God for Dad. I started playing dumb, asking questions I already knew the answer to. Like, "Hey babe, did you end up transferring that $800 from our savings for the new water heater?" "What new water heater?" "The one the landlord mentioned in the email." His face went white. He covered fast some mumbled excuse about, "Oh yeah, I did that through my work card. We don't have a work card. We're homeowners." He was lying. Again, sloppily. That night, I accidentally left open a tab on my laptop while making dinner. It showed a calculator with divorce settlement estimates. I pretended not to notice when he glanced at the screen and immediately looked away. The next morning, he made me breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, coffee with oat milk the way I like it. He even added cinnamon. Classic guilt eggs. But here's where it gets worse. I found the second phone. It was in the back of his sock drawer, stuffed inside an old baseball cap he never wore. A prepaid phone burner style. Cheap, clunky, with one single contact saved. D. My hands were shaking when I opened the text. Dozens of messages. All one-sided. From Mike. Timestamps that matched nights he said he was working late. Messages like, I hate pretending. 2 more years and we're good. She still thinks I'm in love with her. You're the one I see forever with. I sat on the floor of our walk-in closet for 30 minutes, just staring at the screen while my world unraveled in real time. There was no name. No photo. Just D. Who was D? A woman? A partner in scam? Someone he'd been planning this with from the start? I took pictures of everything. Every message. Every disgusting little declaration of his double life. Then I put the phone back exactly where I found it. And when he came home that night, I kissed him on the cheek and said, How was work? He smiled and said, Long day. But I'm just glad to be home. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the burner phone at his head. Instead, I just smiled back and said, Me too. Because now I knew. Mike wasn't just a liar. He was a planner. A schemer. And I wasn't going to play the fool for 1 more minute. But if he was planning for 2 more years, I was about to make sure he didn't get 2 more weeks. I always thought our attic was just where dreams went to die. Old holiday decorations, that box of mismatched chargers, my bridesmaid dresses from other people's weddings that I kept just in case, but knew I'd never wear again. The kind of place you only go when it's Halloween or you're hunting for something you swore you didn't throw away. But on Wednesday night, I found something else up there. I told Mike I was cleaning out stuff for a potential garage sale. He shrugged and barely looked up from his phone. Don't sell my gaming chair, he joked. Ha, ha. I pulled down the stairs, flicked on the overhead light, and climbed into the stale heat. And there, wedged behind our old Christmas tree, was a box I didn't recognize, labeled simply, Keepsakes. Inside were pictures, hundreds of them. But they weren't ours, they were his, from before we met. Mike with friends I'd never seen, in places he'd never mentioned, barbecues, birthday parties, lake weekends, lots of them. But what stopped me cold was one thick envelope labeled, MD, Summer Cabin 2017. I opened it, and there she was, D. Same woman from the photo on the burner phone screen. I knew it instantly. Long caramel-colored hair, sharp cheekbones, hazel eyes that seemed to smirk even when she smiled. She was sitting on a dock, legs in the water, wearing Mike's hoodie. He was beside her, holding her hand. At the time, he would have already known me. We started dating in late 2017. These photos? August. The overlap was right there, printed on glossy paper. There were dozens of them. Hiking, cooking, lying in hammocks. One of them brushing their teeth in the same bathroom where Mike now pretends to love me. It wasn't just a fling. It was a relationship, one I never knew about. And here's the part that made my skin crawl. In one of the photos, they were decorating a Christmas tree together with the exact same ornaments Mike later told me he picked out just for us. I dropped the photo. My hands were trembling. I took the photos, scanned every one, labeled them with dates, locations, facial expressions. I know it sounds insane, but it helped me feel in control again. I noticed patterns. Same hoodie, same mug, same vacation spot he told me we discovered together. All lies, all recycled from another woman. I left the box exactly where I found it. Mike hasn't gone near the attic in years, but I took what I needed. That night, when he kissed me goodnight, I kissed him back. And then I watched him sleep, wondering how much of my life had been built on a script someone else already lived. And that's when the idea hit me. What if I flipped the script on him? He thinks I'm still playing the role, the loyal wife, the trusting partner, the emotional cushion. But I'm not. Not anymore. His birthday was upcoming and I knew what to do. The invitation came, like it always did, through a cheerful group text from his sister, Maya. Hey fam, don't forget Mike's B-Day dinner Friday. Mom's doing her famous roast, and we're surprising him with that signed jersey he's been obsessing over. 6:30 at the house. And yes, Olivia, you're bringing the dessert. Sarah, can't wait to see you there. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the reply button, stomach churning. Mike hadn't mentioned a word about it. No casual, oh, Maya's putting something together. No reminder, no mention of what he wanted for a gift. Nothing. Just days before, I'd found that envelope of photos of him and Dee, the woman he clearly loved long before me, and maybe never stopped loving at all. And now his family wanted to celebrate him like he was worthy of a surprise party, and roast chicken and hugs from people who didn't know he was secretly plotting his exit strategy. I should have declined. I should have blocked the whole family, packed my bags, and disappeared. Instead, I typed, wouldn't miss it, because this was perfect. The perfect place to start peeling back Mike's mask. Friday night came faster than I expected. I wore the red midi dress Mike once told me was a little much for a family dinner. I paired it with heels that made me taller than him and didn't care. My makeup was clean and sharp. I looked like someone who had secrets, someone dangerous, and I was. Maya greeted me at the door with a hug and a glass of wine. "You look amazing," she whispered. "Mike's gonna flip. God, if she only knew." The house was warm and buzzing with voices. His mom fluttered around the kitchen, his dad talked football with the cousins, and someone's toddler was already playing with wrapping paper on the floor. It was sweet, cozy, familiar, which made what I was about to do feel almost cruel. Mike walked in 20 minutes later. He looked surprised, but only for a second. Then the grin appeared. "Babe, you came!" I smiled and kissed him on the cheek. Of course I did. He put his arm around me like nothing was wrong, like we hadn't been living a lie. Everyone cheered and clapped. I toasted him with champagne, laughed at the right moments, even helped carry in the birthday cake. But I was watching, waiting, and then the opportunity presented itself on a silver platter, literally. Over dinner, his uncle made a toast. "To Mike, our favorite tech genius, the best son, and soon to be big boss at the company, I hear." Heads turned. Mike blushed. "Well, nothing official yet." His dad interrupted. "Didn't you say you and Sarah were planning something big this year?" "Oh no, here it comes." Mike looked at me, clearly fishing for help. Yeah, we've been talking about a vacation, maybe?" Maya tilted her head. "Wait, I thought you were house hunting?" His mom chimed in. "Mike told me you two were looking at lots on Oakview Drive. That's what he said last month." And right there, in that perfect moment of confusion, I dropped it. I tilted my head, smiled sweetly, and said, "We haven't looked at any lots. Maybe he meant with someone else?" The table went still. Mike's fork clinked against his plate. "Babe," he said under his breath. "What are you doing?" I leaned in slightly, my voice just loud enough. "Do you want to explain who Dee is? Or should I?" His mom's face went pale. Maya looked like she was trying to decide whether this was a prank. His dad set down his wine glass. Mike swallowed hard, eyes darting around the room like he was trying to find the fire exit. I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. "Oh?" I said, still smiling. "Because I found the photos, Mike. The ones labeled MD. Summer Cabin 2017. Pretty specific for something you don't know." A beat. Then two. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. And that's when Maya's sweet, unaware Maya whispered, "Wait, MD? Maria?" I froze. "Maria?" I asked, voice barely audible. Maya blinked, clearly confused. "Yeah, his old girlfriend. The one he dated for. Like, years. You didn't know about her?" Mike's face dropped, like someone had pulled the ground out from under him. My heart thudded. Maria. That's who Dee was. Maria. His ex. The one he never told me about. The one he never got over. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't the upgrade. I was the replacement. After the dinner party imploded like a Lifetime movie plot twist, I drove straight past our house and didn't stop until I hit a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. Still in heels, still in full war paint, sitting in a cracked leather booth with a coffee I didn't want and a slice of pie I couldn't taste. I kept replaying Maya's voice in my head. Yeah, his old girlfriend, the one he dated for, like, years. Not months. Not a college fling. Years. And somehow, I'd never even heard her name until tonight. Maria. That's who Dee was. Her full name? Sabrina Delgado. I found her within 5 minutes of searching. LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, even a blog she hadn't updated in a year but still had her name on it. Public social media is a blessing and a curse. She was beautiful. Of course she was. That kind of soft-featured, cottagecore vibe. Flowing linen, vintage mugs, indie playlists, and captions like grateful for small moments. I hated how likable she seemed. Her posts were sprinkled with self-awareness and cozy sarcasm and quotes about growth and healing. And suddenly, I saw it. August 19th, 2017. A photo of a cabin by the lake. Caption: the end of something or the start of something else. The date on the envelope I found. August 2017. My chest tightened. Sabrina was the one who ended it. I could feel it. I dug deeper. Old photos of her and Mike buried under months of life, but still there. Him holding her hand. Her wearing my hoodie. One photo taken at the exact same overlook where Mike had proposed to me 2 years later. And that caption? Second chances are for the brave. But sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing of all. I wanted to scream. Because I realized in that moment, I was never the one for him. I was the backup plan. He proposed to me at the same place where he had once posed with her. He brought me into his world, using recycled love stories from another life. And worst of all, he never told me, never mentioned her, never gave me the chance to ask questions or draw boundaries. Because Mike didn't want a partner, He wanted a reset, someone with a new name and a shiny last name, someone his parents could brag about and his bank account could benefit from. And he'd found me. He didn't fall in love with me. He fell in love with what I could cover up: his heartbreak, his regret, his ambition, his debt, all neatly concealed under the glossy veneer of happy couple. And it worked. Until now. I sat in that booth until my coffee went cold. Then I pulled out my phone, opened notes, and typed one sentence. He doesn't get to do this to anyone else. This wasn't just about me anymore. I was going to find out everything he'd hidden. And I wasn't going to burn his life down in a moment of rage. No, I'd dismantle it slowly. It started with an email from our bank. Subject line: unusual activity on joint account. I almost missed it, buried between store coupons and a newsletter I swear I never subscribed to. But there it was, quietly sitting in my inbox like a ticking bomb. I clicked it with the same dread you feel checking your phone after sending a risky text. Inside was a notification of a $9,500 wire transfer out of our joint savings to a name I didn't recognize. Delgado Company. My stomach dropped. Delgado. Maria's last name. My husband had just wired nearly 10 grand to her. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, trying to rationalize, to explain, to convince myself it had to be something else. A business? A fluke? Some unrelated person who just happened to share her last name? No. The timing was too precise. The name, too direct. And the amount, too specific. This wasn't a utility bill or a one-time accident. It was intentional. My fingers moved before my brain caught up. I logged into our online banking portal, heart pounding, hands ice cold. And there it was, a pattern. Over the past 6 months, there had been a series of personal reimbursements and consulting payments made out to various LLCs, none of which I recognized. Each one with vague names like MD Holdings, Delgado Strategies, LD Collaborative, at least $27,000, gone. While I was meal prepping to save money and clipping coupons for fun date nights, while I was covering utilities, booking flights for his family holidays, and sacrificing my own financial autonomy to be a team. And he was funneling our money into Maria's name. I felt physically ill. I slammed the laptop shut like it had insulted me. And then I just sat there, quiet, cold, numb in the kind of way you get when your body knows the truth before your mind is ready to accept it. Mike wasn't planning a future with me. He was funding one with her, and I didn't know if Sabrina knew. Was she in on it? Was she with him again? Or was she just a passive recipient, unaware of the chaos being orchestrated behind her name? I needed answers, but more than that, I needed proof. That night, I went to Mike's office while he was in the shower. I acted like I was looking for stamps, made a little noise to seem casual. I opened the drawer he guards like it contained state secrets. Inside, a manila folder labeled investment projects. What I found wasn't just shady. It was criminal adjacent. Bank statements, receipts, property estimates. A full printed email exchange, yes, printed between Mike and someone labeled simply MD, discussing future returns, payout plans, and how to stay under the radar until the divorce window closes. Divorce window. I froze. Mike was preparing for after, not if we got divorced when. And he wanted to bleed me financially before I ever saw it coming. And the most heartbreaking part? He was winning. Until now. Because I took photos of every single document. I uploaded them to my hidden cloud folder and backed them up on a password-protected hard drive at work. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was armed. And if Mike thought I was going to quietly walk away from the mess he made of my life, he was about to find out exactly who he married. Not a trust fund pushover. Not the money wife. But a woman who's been underestimated for far too long. I walked into the lawyer's office wearing my best armor cream blazer, no-nonsense bun, neutral lipstick that said I'm done playing nice. Her name was Naomi. Sharp eyes, sharper questions. The kind of woman who probably keeps files on her files and doesn't blink when clients cry. Exactly what I needed. I laid it all out. No tears, no trembling. Just facts, documents, screenshots, wire transfers, and the words, divorce window underlined in red pen like a threat. Naomi flipped through the stack silently. Then she looked up and said, "You've got a hell of a case." I exhaled for the first time in days. She asked all the right questions. When had the financial discrepancy started? Was my name on the property deed? Did I have access to all the accounts? Did he ever make comments about splitting assets? No, sort of, and yes, but only in hypothetical jokes, I answered. Like the time he said, "If we ever split, I'm taking the espresso machine." Cute at the time. Not anymore. Then Naomi asked something I hadn't considered. Has he ever mentioned a lockbox or safety deposit? I blinked. Why? She tapped the folder. You'd be surprised how often men like him keep paper backups of things they hope you never find, especially if they don't fully trust their business partners. A chill ran down my spine. Later that night, I casually asked Mike while he was flossing, "Hey babe, Where did we end up storing that lockbox from your old place? He paused, just for a second. But I saw the flicker of panic. Then, too quickly, he said, I tossed it ages ago. Didn't need it. Lie. Because 2 months earlier, I'd seen him with a small keychain in his gym bag, marked STB 118. I Googled every bank and private vault location in our area. Only one had an STB numbering system that matched, a local credit union 10 minutes from his work. I drove there the next day during my lunch break. I didn't try to access it yet, but I asked the woman at the front desk if she could check if a box under our joint names existed. She politely explained that she couldn't give me access or details without both signatures, but when I casually dropped Mike's full name and birth date, her expression changed. Her eyes flicked to her monitor, then back to me. She hesitated, smiled. I'm sorry, but I can't discuss client accounts without proper authorization. Gotcha. It existed, and he didn't want me to know about it. I called Naomi that afternoon. She told me the next step was to quietly gather as much intel as possible before serving papers. She used the term strategic withdrawal, emotional, financial, legal. We hit him all at once, she said, tapping her pen. Lockbox subpoena, asset freeze, and a demand for full financial disclosure. No warning. One day, he wakes up thinking everything is normal. By sunset, the game is over. I wasn't ready that day. Not yet, but I would be. That night, while Mike watched sports on the couch, I sat across from him with my laptop open, shopping for birthday gifts for his sister. Really, I was moving every last dollar from my private account into a new credit union. Naomi recommended one that specialized in high net worth asset protection. Every keystroke felt like taking a brick back from the house he tried to build over my name. Mike doesn't suspect a thing. He still kisses me goodnight, still calls me babe, still rants about his boss and forgets I'm listening, still touches my back absent-mindedly when we brush past each other in the hallway. But I wasn't content, just unraveling his lies from the shadows. I wanted to look the other woman in the eye. I didn't message her with rage. I didn't lead with screenshots, or threats, or burning woman energy. I sent her a message at 2:07 a.m., one of those nights where you've already cried into your pillow, replayed every lie like a trailer reel, and still can't sleep. It was simple, calm. Just 5 words. Do you know about me? She responded the next morning. Sarah? That's when I knew. She did. And more than that, she hadn't been in the dark like I had. We agreed to meet at a little coffee shop on the far side of town. Neutral territory. No chance of Mike casually walking by. I didn't tell anyone I was going. Not even Naomi. I needed to see her alone. Woman to woman. No lawyers. No filters. I got there first. Chose the corner booth. Heart jackhammering. I kept trying to breathe like I'd learned in yoga, but it just made me more aware of the fact that I was shaking. She walked in 5 minutes later. She was exactly what I expected, and nothing like I imagined. Tall, effortlessly pretty in that not trying way. Loose cream sweater, soft jeans, barely there makeup and still glowing. She looked like she smelled like vanilla and freshly folded laundry. Maria? I asked, even though I already knew. She nodded, slid into the booth and said, I figured this was coming. I went straight in. How long have you and Mike been talking? She stared at me for a beat, then said, since February, but not the way you think. I tilted my head, waiting. I broke up with him 5 years ago, she said. He cheated. I found out. End of story. Or so I thought. Then, out of nowhere this year, he emailed me, said he wanted to make things right, that he was in a loveless marriage, that he'd married too quickly, that he still thought about me. I flinched. She caught it. I didn't respond at first, but he kept emailing. Got weirdly poetic, said he never stopped loving me, that he was trapped. Trapped? I said, voice sharper than I meant. Maria's face was calm but not unkind. I never responded romantically. I told him I was seeing someone. But he still kept sending these updates. About your life. His life. Like I was supposed to care. Did you ever send him money? I asked. Or receive it? That made her blank. What? I explained the wire transfers. The fake LLC names. The money trail that ended at anything with Delgado in the name. Maria's lips parted in slow horror. No. I never, Sarah. I haven't taken a dime from him. If he's sending money, it's not to me. Maybe he's using my name as cover? The table between us seemed to disappear. Now we were allies, co-survivors of the same fraud. She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then handed it to me. An email from Mike, dated April 4th, subject line. Our plan is still on track. The message, once the window closes, I'll come to you. Everything will be clean. No lawyers, just us. Window? I asked. Sabrina looked confused. No idea. I assumed he meant emotionally. I shook my head. No, it's about my prenup. There's a clause. If we divorce before the 5-year mark, he gets significantly less. The window is the anniversary. Sabrina leaned back, eyes wide. Jesus. And that's when it hit me. The love letters, the guilt eggs, the proposal-level gestures. He wasn't trying to win me back. He was trying to buy time. Buy enough days to hit that deadline and cash out. He never intended to leave me early. He intended to milk it until the contract expired. I felt sick. My whole body buzzed like static. Sabrina looked at me gently, then said something I didn't expect. You should bury him with receipts. I smiled. For the first time in days. Already working on it. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. I wasn't going to give this to anyone, but I think you'll know what to do with it. Inside? A printed letter, dated last year. A full confession. Mike, begging Sabrina to wait for him. Admitting he married me too soon. Calling our life a comfortable lie. Saying I'd never see it coming because I was too busy being adored. That line broke something in me, and rebuilt something else. I stood up, thanked her, and left with shaking hands and fire in my chest. Because now I had the truth. And a letter in Mike's own words, proving everything he swore he'd never say out loud. Our 5th anniversary was exactly 11 days away. Mike had already started planning something special. Candlelight dinner reservations. A weekend getaway at a spa resort. I found the itinerary in his email while he was in the shower, complete with couples massage and champagne room service. How poetic. He wanted to wine, dine, and divorce me, right after the prenup clause expired. He just needed me to keep playing my role a little longer. Keep smiling, keep trusting, keep staying. But what he didn't know, I'd already booked the real reservation at the courthouse. Naomi had everything ready. The subpoenas, the lockbox warrant, the full forensic breakdown of our accounts. A separate legal filing was prepared for fraudulent misrepresentation based on the evidence I'd collected. The letter from Sabrina would seal the deal. And my inheritance? Locked, sealed, and permanently untouchable. Thanks, Dad. But I didn't want to just walk away. I wanted him to feel it, so I played the part. Perfect wife. Attentive. Affectionate. I even wore that stupid floral dress he once said made me look soft and sweet. He didn't suspect a thing. On the morning of our anniversary weekend, I handed him a gift box wrapped in silver paper. Open it, I said, smiling sweetly. Inside, a copy of the wire transfer logs, a screenshot of the email he sent Maria, a printed copy of our prenup with the 5-year clause bolded, and, finally, a letter from my attorney officially serving him divorce papers. He blinked, once, twice, laughed, because he thought it was a prank. Then he saw the notary seal, and his face crumpled. What? What is this? He asked, voice cracking. I tilted my head, calm and still. Oh, babe, I said. Didn't you hear? Our window just closed. He stood there, in our kitchen, barefoot and stunned. I don't understand. We were doing better. I thought we were… No, you were stalling, I said. You weren't trying to fix our marriage. You were trying to get rich off it. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. You lied. You manipulated. You used me. And the worst part? You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I was so in love, I'd just let you bleed me dry. I stepped back, heart pounding but steady. But I saw you, Mike. Every version. And guess what? I loved the one I thought you were. But I buried the one you really are. He followed me down the hall, begging, unraveling. We can fix this. Sarah, please. It was just emails. Just dumb thoughts. I never meant to hurt you. I stopped at the door, turned around. You didn't just hurt me, I said. You rewrote our entire story without telling me. You stole time, money, trust, and tried to replace me with someone you already lost. I hope she was worth it. I walked out, suitcase in hand. Not the tearful, tragic exit he probably expected. Just a quiet goodbye from the woman who'd finally stopped giving him everything. By sunset, his accounts were frozen. His secret lockbox was in legal custody. His reputation? About to implode once Naomi filed the petition with fraud attached. As for me, I moved into my friend Rachel's guest house that same weekend. Got my own bank account, my own lawyer, my own freedom.